Hey guys, Corley here. I'm gonna give you guys a in-depth guide on how to progress from the early end game into the later end game. Yeah, I just started this patch 3 days ago, basically, and I've done pretty well. I look at my stash here right now. I've got 4 divines, got 300 exalts, 28 chaos. I've spent a decent amount already, maybe around 2 divines on my gear, and this is 3 days, and I haven't been playing like 12 hours a day. I do play a fair bit, to be honest. I've played probably, I don't know, like 25 hours past 3 days. It's just trying to go to show you that you can start late in the league, you can make currency. Then there's ways, and I'm going to explain in detail exactly the way I made my currency and how I progressed through the Atlas very quickly, how I got my character geared, and how I chose to buy the gear that I chose to buy to make my character as strong as possible, as efficiently as possible. And I'm playing a lightning spear Amazon, so the gear that I'm going to show is based on lightning spear, but I think the principles apply to all builds. But let's get going. So start off, the way I made my first exalts were actually by selling stellar amulets. So when you drop a white stellar amulet, they actually go for 40x each. So that's a pretty penny, especially early on. I mean, white stellar amulets, they drop in the campaign. I got 3 of them in the campaign. I think most people can get at least 1, and that's 40x. And 40x goes a pretty long way. 40x, you can get a lot of your, rare gear that you might need. Definitely can get your uniques if you're playing this build. The uniques all combined are like 7x. Yeah, just get you some decent rares, life, res, and maybe a bit of ES on some of your pieces, and you're good. You're good to go. You can get up to tier 15 and do tier 15s. You don't need much. At least not on this build. So that was the first way I made my currency, but beyond that, it's really just mapping. But I'll explain exactly how I did my Atlas tree, because it is maybe a little unique. But just to go over how you progress early game and the fastest way to get to tier 15, what I found is you want to be doing boss tiles. So if it has a map boss on the tile area, like do those, or if you don't have any of them, do the towers, and then you can do one of these, the Overseer tablet, put that in the tower that you do, and then it'll influence the nearby areas to have a boss. And bosses will pretty much always drop a waystone. Usually they'll drop a tier above. You start with tier 1, you do a boss, you get tier 2. And then you do your tier 2 waystone on the other boss tile, you get a tier 3, so on and so forth. And you'll hit tier 15, within basically 14 maps. It's insane, right? So definitely try to do as many boss tiles as you can and influence your maps with the boss tablet. Is probably the best one in my opinion. And then the biggest thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to path towards these red circles in the fog, because this means that they are a corrupted nexus. So there's a corrupted nexus tile here. And when you do a corrupted nexus tile, that will give you Atlas points in the Atlas tree, and the Atlas tree is a good way to also get higher tier waystones. So if you put your first 6 points on the right side here, like I did, you can go to the high road. And this is a 20% chance for the waystones to be a tier higher. So that really helps in progressing to tier 15. And then what I like to do, and this is how I also made some more currency, is I went to the left side and I went to get strong boxes. The researchers' strong boxes are actually really good. They have a pretty decent chance at dropping a divine or just decent currency like chaos or annulments and stuff like that. I got a divine from mine. And again, this is within 3 days. And I really didn't run that many. It's pretty good odds realistically. So I like going to the left side. You get maybe some increased pack size, some rare stuff. I like going this way, and then getting the Researcher's Plunder is the biggest node here, because that gives you a big chance to get Researcher's Strong boxes. And then the other strong boxes aren't that good. Like Blacksmith is pretty much useless. You can pretty much just skip them. But the other strong boxes are actually pretty reasonable. But that gets me to the other point of you're going to want to craft your strong boxes, especially if they're researchers. If I have a row of currency that you can use to craft your strong boxes. So the currency I keep is on a stack of augments, a stack of alchemies, a stack of regals, a stack of exalts, and then a stack of wisdom scrolls. Because sometimes the boxes can be unidentified, and you're going to want to identify them and then craft them. And what you're looking for, you're really just caring about 2, I believe they're suffixes, and that is increased rarity and increased quantity. You pretty much guaranteed to hit them. Like, I think they're like a mandatory affix. Do a couple of exalts if you don't have them yet on that box, and it's worth doing, because if you get a divine back, you've made it back. So yeah, and that's specifically for researchers. I probably wouldn't do it on regular strong boxes or any other box. The researchers, for sure, you're going to want to make sure they at least have those mods. But using the exalts, the regals, if it's white, use an alchemy. That's why I don't have any transmutes, because alchemy just gives you 4 mods. It's just better. In terms of the other points, just to show you guys, I got shrines. Shrines is just a nice early game because you get the movement speed shrine potentially, which lets you zoom, gets you other shrines that just give you a lot of power. The unfortunate part of it though is you get more greed shrines, and greed shrines straight up brick your drops. So if you get a greed shrine, you have to try to just right click it off, honestly. If you notice it, right click it, you can remove it because it turns your drops into gold and you could just lose your divine to 1 gold basically. So it really sucks. It's kind of hard to tell the greed shrine when it appears. And if you click it, I've clicked it. If you forget to unclick it, yeah, it sucks. So just try to right click that off. But otherwise, I think it's pretty worth it. But definitely this is up to you. You can just not take these nodes at all and just maybe get Waystone. Explicit modifiers is a good one. And then in terms of making currency by selling gear, it's kind of tough when you're halfway through the league basically, because people have already gotten their rare gear for the most part. They're not really looking to buy suboptimal gear, and that's pretty much all you're going to find unless you get super lucky. So it's still worth picking up high tier gear, like when you get a drop that says tier 3, tier 4, tier 5, it might be worth it, especially depending on the base. Bases you want to look for especially are going to be ES evasion or just pure ES, because those are the ones that are worth anything pretty much right now. Probably not going to make too much currency by selling your gear, although definitely pick up jewels. Jewels are definitely going to be a good currency maker because there's a lot of jewels that people will be buying. There's not very many modifiers on jewels. They don't have a big roll range. So it's actually pretty easy to get a really good jewel. So definitely prioritize getting jewels or picking up jewels, even if they're blue. ID them, exalt slam them, or regal them or something. And if you get a potentially really good one, exalt it. Definitely worth crafting your jewels and potentially getting some currency out of that. Also, realistically, another good way to make some currency is by running Delirium maps, because Simulacrum splinters, they drop pretty often. You hit 5 rewards or 6 rewards in tier 15s pretty easily, and you get maybe 15, 20 splinters out of that. So full simulacrum's around 80 exalts. It's not the best, right? So obviously it's 300 shards for a single simulacrum, so if you're maybe getting 20 a map, it's not bad. You're gonna need to do simulacrums anyways to get your points, and may as well, not buy the simulacrums and just make them yourself and run them yourself. Ideally, right? So I would prioritize getting Delirium on your maps, right? So using the Delirium tablets, these ones here, Delirium Precursor. This is obviously super high value. And eventually you're going to want to make your Waystones delirious, but I wouldn't do delirious Waystones until you've gotten more points into this. Specifically, I think you're going to want this node, 50% increased stack size of Simulacrum splinters, because again, that's really where your currency is going to come from, is Simulacrum splinters. So I wouldn't run delirious maps until you've got at least a couple points to invest into the tree. And then honestly, another way of making currency, and especially with this build, is running Sekhema trials. This is honestly, it's pretty easy. I got my last ascendancy doing Sekhema. When I hit level 90, I got my 5 socket gems, and I did it my first try, and there was 0 issues. I was one-shotting the bosses basically. It's pretty easy. I think they nerfed it over the patches, so I would definitely recommend it. And it's also, they drop a unique relic pretty commonly. That's at least my run. I got a unique relic and it sold for 1 div. I don't know. It was worth a lot. Definitely Sekhema trials are worth running. Super easy. You find 1 billion of these while mapping, and it's another good way to make currency with 0 investment, right? Tips to complete Sekhema. So you want to rush for Sacred Water. Sacred Water is really important. So if you find Sacred Water nodes, try to get those, because Sacred Water equals boons and targeted boons, right? Because when you try to buy something from the merchant, they give you options and you can buy the best stuff. So things like movement speed, the hair one gives you 40% MS, very, very good. And then you can get, 40% more damage. You can get monsters have 30% less life. You get some really good boons that just make your build completely destroy everything. Also get you more honor, things like that, right? And then in terms of afflictions, you just try to avoid them as much as possible. Look for rooms that don't have afflictions. Try to do rooms that lead into rooms that don't have afflictions. And then if you have to pick an affliction, pick the one that doesn't hurt you as much as the other one does. And that's depends on the build you're playing, and maybe depends on your own personal preference sometimes. But obvious ones that you don't want to pick, as an example, 90% less light radius. You can not even see where you are anymore. You probably could be bricked, right? There's some other really bad ones, but yeah, try to just mitigate the bad afflictions. Pick as many boons as you can get. Try to get as much Sacred Water as you can get. And then honestly, the more you do them, the better and the easier it becomes, because you're going to get more relics, right? You're going to get a ton of these, and the better ones are going to make a big difference, right? You're going to be looking for honor resistance or increased honor on each relic, ideally. The seal relic typically give you those. And there's some other good ones too, but those are really commonly found and really powerful to just give you a big life pool, essentially. And if you have enough damage, and that's the biggest thing, to be honest, is just get as much damage as you can on your build, so that you can basically just one-shot everything, right? If you're one-shotting everything and you're basically one-shotting the bosses, you're going to have no problem, right? That's it. I mean, only traps will kill you at that point. And when you're doing the trap rooms, just take it slow. And then one big tip that can save you a lot of currency that I want to give you guys is don't buy perfect jewelers. Unless you're trying to make your absolute end game level 21 gem, just buy your gem corrupted from the market. Let me explain that a bit more. And I'll show you the process of buying one. What you're going to do, you're going to go to pathofexile.com/trade2, and then you're going to search for the gem that you're going to be using mainly, right? So for me, let's say it's lightning spear. I'll search that up, and then you're going to want 20 quality because that gives you either more damage or utility, or it's worth getting, right? And then you're going to want 5 sockets because that's the max you can get. And then gem level minimum of 19 because 20 is too expensive. 19 is basically the same. I mean, it's pretty close, right? Anyways, and then you search for that, and you'll already see 15x. Now you got to be a little bit careful though. So if it says -1 level from corruption, that means it was a level 20 gem, and level 20 gems require level 90. And that's if you're progressing early like I was and you're looking to buy these, you're going to be level 90 much later. You know, level 19 gems are level 84, so way less levels required. So what you want to do is you want to try to not buy one of these. You see how some people list them at 5 chaos. Try to avoid buying in chaos because typically the conversion ratio is not actually good. Right now it's 10 exalts per 1 chaos. So this is actually 50x. And you know, Pee-wee Trade thinks it's 30. So you want to be careful on that. And 5 sockets, level 19, requires level 84, 20 quality. Just buy this. And that saves you, because I mean, it's a divine for a perfect jeweler. So that saves you a ton of currency, basically just as good, and makes you a lot more stronger, right? It gives you a ton of power. Same thing goes for all your gems that give you strength, right? So for me as well, I would want to buy like Stormlands, right? So you want to do the same thing. You don't have to change anything except for the name. Search for it, and different gems are more expensive than others. For some reason, Stormlands is just more expensive. So for example, you'd have to spend 50 exalts minimum to get one. Still super worth it compared to a perfect jeweler, which is 1 divine, right? So definitely just buy your gems from other people who have already failed to corrupt them and are reselling them. It's just way cheaper. Another thing you're going to want to do is get your boss points. So once you hit tier 15s and you're running those, you're going to want to start to acquire boss skill points for your Atlas tree, because if you get 6 points, you can get up to Old Pirate's Trick, which gives you an additional strong box, which is really good for our strong box strat of making currency, right? To get 6 points, it's a little difficult to figure that out. It took me a bit of time, to be honest, so I'll just explain it here. What you want to do is specifically get a tier 16 waystone. So to get a tier 16 waystone, you have to corrupt a tier 15 waystone so that it goes to 16. There's a reasonably high chance of hitting it. And then you're going to want to run a map that's like this one. So it has a map boss on it and it's irradiated. And when that's the case, that means that the area level is 81, and level 81 is enough to get you up to 6 points for the boss completion, because technically to get all points, which is 8 points, you need to do area level 82 tile, and to do that you need it to be irradiated, have a map boss on it, tier 16, and it needs to be corrupted. And corruption is only in specific areas like this. So it's pretty tough to meet all those qualifications sometimes. So I would just get your 6 points by doing maps like this, because you can pretty much guarantee that with a tower. You know, you put your Overseer precursor tablet in there, and then you also put your just regular precursor tablet that irradiates things around that radius, and you'll find one of these. And then just run a tier 16 map on it, and that'll be your 6th point. To get the other 2 points, or 4 points, I mean, you just run a tier 15 boss and then a tier 16 boss. Easy peasy. And the final thing I'm going to give you guys here is how to get jewels for cheap, because jewels actually give you a lot of damage. Like for this one, this is like 10% more damage for me. There's other jewels that I have that are pretty dang good too. Like this one gives me even cold res, it has a corruption, and also it has 4 useful mods that I can use. So, you know, jewels are pretty dang powerful, and they can be expensive if you don't trade it correctly. So let me show you quickly how to get some jewels to really improve the power of your build and let you do endgame content earlier. So using pathofexile.com/trade, there's some pretty powerful trade tools that you can use that help you find items that are useful to you. So here I have one set up for finding jewels that I can use, and it's not even fully comprehensive yet. I'm still maybe filling out some affixes that I could possibly use. So what you want to do here is first, obviously you want to set your category. So in my case, I'm looking for jewels. So you set for any jewel. And then you want to go add stat group and then choose count. And the reason why you want to do count is because if you set a minimum count, what that basically does is it looks for items that have at least 4 of these affixes that you've listed out here. So basically what you do is you list all the useful affixes to you in this list here. Then you set the minimum amount of affixes that you want to find on the mod. So jewels can only have 4. So you want to put minimum of at least 4 or 3. You can do 3 if you want a cheaper one. So maybe if you're just starting out, choose, put 3 as the minimum. But if you're getting into the later game, set up as 4, and then you can search for that. And you can just see, some pretty cheap ones. 30x, not too bad. 5 chaos. A lot of these are 50x. But if you want to get the cheapest price, you have to click activate live search. And when you activate live search, that means that as soon as somebody posts their item, you'll get a notification. And that allows you to buy items that are either mispriced by somebody because they don't know what they're doing, or they just don't care. They just want to get rid of it really quickly, right? There's tons of that too. Basically this gives you the first dib on a trade that shows up. And also, as you can see, you're going to want to set a limit. Obviously 5 divine is insane for something like that. So you're going to want to reduce the maximum price to be something like whatever you're willing to spend. So 50x seems to be reasonable. Quite a few people list them for 50x. So I would put maybe a max of 50x for a 4 mod useful jewel for yourself. And then ways to find useful affixes. I would recommend using poe2db.tw, and then you can kind of pull up the item that you're looking for. In my case, I'd be looking for emeralds because those have the best mods for me. And I can look at each one that I think would be useful, right? So accuracy is good, attack damage is good, elemental damage is good, lightning damage, projectile damage. I should be adding these, right? Because all of these are pretty much equally good. So projectile damage, I can add elemental damage, and you want to add as many useful affixes as you can possibly find, because that will give you more options at finding a cheap one that is still obviously pretty much equal to the amount of damage that other ones can give you, right? And if we search for that now we got a lot more options. And look, this is 10EX. And what do we get for 10EX? We get increased attack speed, we get increased crit damage, we get increased elemental damage, and we get increased damage with hits against rare enemies. And obviously these have some pretty big rolls too. So you kind of want to try to find ones that have good rolls. Then again, activate live search, keep it on the second monitor, and just keep an eye on it. And if you hear the ding, take a look, see if it's good, see if it's worth it, and buy it up, because that can give you a lot of player power for not a lot of currency. And that actually goes for pretty much everything, right? So let's say you're trying to buy a helmet and there's certain mods you really want on the helmet. You can go into your search, you can set up accounts to try to get as many of the useful affixes to you as possible. If there's a mandatory affix that you absolutely need, you can add it here, and this will require that affix to be on that mod or on that item. And then in the count section, you can put in things that are useful to have but not required, and that's a way to again broaden your search to try to find good items that are cheaply priced. And that's honestly really key in order to get your character to be strong without breaking the bank, because you want to try to save as much currency as you can to invest in running maps, maybe buying delirious orbs or whatever to make your maps be more currency efficient, stuff like that, right? You have to spend money to make money. If you spend wisely, you'll have more money to spend. You know what I mean? So this is a good way to spend money wisely. Use the trade site in an intelligent way. Use PoE2DB to figure out the mods you want, and yeah, definitely recommend doing that too. Yeah, I hope this helps your progression. I'm enjoying this character. I might make a guide on the character itself. Maybe I'll post something in the description on this character at the moment that I'm playing it right now. Give you guys kind of a guide on how I built it. If you want it, I don't know if you want that. There's a ton of guides out here for Lightning Spirits. The most common build in the patch, right? It's the most OP build in the patch. But yeah, thanks for watching and good luck out there. Peace.